Every time I think I heard it all, a teacher gets arrested for something not even an idiot can't even do. 2 teachers were arrested. One was arrested today. The other was arrested just 5 days ago, almost a week. But the question is your child safe when it comes to your teacher being under the influence? Teachers were arrested for sexual scandals with their students. But this is one of the first issues we've ever talked about in 6 years. This makes me sick. If I was in school and I saw something like that happening, I would immediately report it to the administration. I would not let it go. They tell me, mind your business. I'm going to say, nope. Ask to go to the bathroom, go walk down the principal's office, drag him out of here, saw what happened, he's under the influence. A lot of people say the same thing. Bada boom, jailed for life. What do they have to say? What does TM have to say? Mean Tulsa Midway? Here's Bill Churchwell.
This incident is not a reflection of the 600 plus employees who come to work every day and do great work.
TM Superintendent Steve Van Matry says this is a letter that is difficult to write, but that he, as a school leader, has an obligation to report. He says what isn't clear is the underlying circumstances as to what caused one of the district's employees to come to work allegedly under the influence of alcohol.
I think that there's a bigger issue that's not just a TM issue.
Van Matry says there is a need for emotional support and assistance for adult educators to help deal with any sort of issues they might be experiencing. In fact, in the past 2 weeks, he says the district has rolled out a wellness program for its employees.
Nobody is immune from the pressures that we all face as educators and employees who work closely with children. There's a significant amount of stress involved with that.
I don't know the details of it, but I do know that it is symptomatic of what we're going through with our students and among the teaching profession.
Nancy Vetta is the president of the local American Federation of Teachers chapter. She agrees more school districts need to adopt a wellness-type program for its educators.
There's a certain stress and a certain intensity that that teachers seem to have to self-medicate, or we're seeing more and more incidents of teachers having nervous breakdowns and panic attacks.
Vetta says she is currently working with CCISD and West Oso ISD to enhance wellness opportunities for teachers.
We, for example, at Zavala Elementary School, put together a wellness room with massage chairs so that teachers and faculty and staff and even the whole entire school district could go in and relax.
Both Vetta and Van Matry agree the safety and well-being of students is paramount.
Teaching them how to take care of themselves so that they can take care of the students.
The superintendent says he has reported the incident to the TEA, which is protocol. Bill Churchwell, 3 News.
All right, Bill, thanks for that.
Do I even have to say it? Do I even have to say it? Where do I begin here? Where do I begin here with this common sense crap? Common sense would tell you, do not go into work under the influence. Do not bring alcohol on school grounds. That violates state law. State law prohibits this. You should not have alcohol on school grounds in any school district, whether it's Flower Bluff, Tulsa Midway, CTISD, anywhere. You never should bring alcohol on school grounds since it's a violation of state law. I've heard that for a long time, and I'm telling you this now. Common sense would tell you that state law says you are not allowed to have alcoholic beverages, whether it's beer, whiskey, wine, whatever, on school grounds. You're violating state law and you will be sent to jail. And no need to throw common sense at the superintendent or the teachers union. They did a great job in reporting this. I applaud the superintendent for writing the letter, and I applaud him for reporting to the TEA. And I applaud the teachers union for doing damn well, having a great damn well idea having wellness programs in our schools. Now, they may side with it, or they may not side with it. They may say, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Other people may say, nah, it's not going to work out on our budget. Make a new budget. Try it out. You may say, we don't want to try it out. It's just too much. What do you mean it's too much? It's a way to help out teachers. Help out lots of employees who couldn't work under the influence of alcohol. Now that teachers suspended with pay, put them in a rubber room. Wasting our money suspended with pay. He's still getting paid by the district while he's sitting home eating popcorn going, yay, I'm home, I ain't gonna get to go to work no more and I'm still getting paid because I was at school drunk. Come on. Listen to me. So what happens now? We want to know. If that teacher spoke out, told his side of the story, we want to know. Speaking of the other side of the story, coming up still ahead, you've heard about the case of the Seige at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. Now, Randy Weaver is going to walk us through what happened. Also, Chris Hansen with the FBI employee tells his side of the story about what happened. But coming up next, this parent claims her daughter was bullied and called a slave at school. So what is more being done here at San Diego Elementary? Stay with us. Believe it or not, there is still more bullying going on. This time it's happening in Orange County, Florida. In Orange County, Florida, this mother you're about to meet was outraged that the school did not do enough when it came to her daughter being racially bullied. Here's Jessica Nova.
This mother says after feeling ignored, she's left with no choice but to demonstrate outside her daughter's school in Santa Ana and pull her 10-year-old out of the school district.
They're sweeping underneath the rug.
Jasmine Harris is talking about an incident on March 1st at Santiago Elementary School. Her 5th grader Paris Barnes was playing with her friends at lunchtime when she says a classmate whipped a jump rope towards her and told her, quote, "Get back to work, you slave."
It was very disrespectful, and I just felt really hurt inside.
Mom says she's not satisfied with the response from administrators on campus or staff with the Santa Ana Unified School District. Harris has taken to social media demanding answers. She wants to know whether the other 5th grader is being disciplined.
I want the little boy to get expelled. I want them to do something about this.
Harris tells Eyewitness News because the other student involved is a minor. She went to the Orange County District Attorney's Office to press charges against him, hate crime, and attempted assault on a minor. A spokesperson with the OCDA's office says they can't comment on cases involving a juvenile. Other parents among about a dozen protesters Monday expressing dissatisfaction with how bullying is handled at Santiago.
They see that so many kids involved and there's nothing being done about it. There's clearly a systematic issue.
The school district superintendent says his staff are working to sit down with and make both families part of a solution, pointing to a formal independent investigation underway.
My heart goes out to Paris, to the young lady, and I just, I want to make sure that she feels she gets the support that the student needs, but also making sure that we also provide the support so this doesn't happen again.
I'm not really comfortable going back to school because I don't know if he'll do it again because no one really said if he was going to be in that much trouble.
We asked the school district whether they're taking disciplinary action against the other student, but we're told they cannot make that information public. Reporting in Santa Ana, Jessica Nova, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Hello, I'm Mark.
School's not doing more enough to prevent this from happening again? There needs to be zero tolerance and bullying programs and plays to help demonstrate this. I would show you that bullying words can kill, but CBS is gonna block my ass for showing that. And I did it on Sunday, and then trying to post on Daily Motion, but It didn't work. I wasn't going to post it on Vimeo, but I don't want to talk about it. But I'm glad more is being done to prevent this from happening again. I mean, people may say, hey, I'm sorry for that. I did this, blah, 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 blah. Please forgive us. We'll talk about this, blah, 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 blah. We won't do it again, so-and-so. But more is being done. You ever heard of Bikers Against Bullies? If you were at a school, you may have heard about these Bikers Against Bullies. It's bikers teaching kids important lessons at school, all about bullying. Watch this.
Now, bullying is a big concern in Middle Tennessee schools. We recently told you about a Stewart County student's death by suicide that's now under investigation. One group wants to put a stop to bullying once and for all, and they have their own unique way of doing it. They call what they do invasions.
Once they hear those bikes fire up, I mean, that's it there. I mean, they're already jazzed.
A dozen bikers looking tough as nails invade schools with a message for the students about bullying.
And if somebody's bullying you, use your voice. Stand up, be heard. That's our motto. We say it all the time.
Randall Lucky Hopkins is the Tennessee liaison for Bikers Against Bullies USA. He started the chapter in 2019 after his friend's daughter wrote a suicide note.
There's a lot of kids out there, they don't know how to ask for help. They don't know who to go to. They're either embarrassed or, you know, they're just, a lot of them are just kind of hoping that somebody will see the signs.
Bikers Against Bullies Invasions is a 30-minute performance and also a lesson for students. With music, skits, and most of all, life-saving messages for students about not judging a book by its cover.
That's one thing that kind of leads to bullying is judging somebody before you even know them. And I tell them, I'm like, look at us. You know, I mean, we all stand here, we got on leather vests and boots and all this stuff. We don't look like, you know, we don't dress like your mom or your dad or your uncle or, you know, grandparents. But then I go into, you know, who we are. I mean, we've got military veterans. We've got real estate agents. We've got corrections officers. I mean, we got a whole different array of professionals in our chapter. You know, just because we look like this today don't mean we look like that more at work.
The bikers teach the students how to spot signs of bullying. They want to take their message to more schools and open new chapters statewide and empower more students to be true to who they are.
It's like I tell the kids, you know, when we go to these invasions, be proud of who you are because you are who you are for a reason. God made you that way for a reason. If somebody's calling you a nerd, I want you to stand up and be the best nerd there is in this school. Be proud of it. Own it.
Message we all need to hear. The Middle Tennessee chapter of Bikers Against Bullies is all volunteer. If you would like to join or even bring their anti-bullying message to your school, we have a link on WKRN.com.
And I can send that message on this broadcast, and it's also going to be on the Stop Bullying Speak Up. That's one of my main goals throughout the show, is to help people stop bullying and to speak up. That's what we've been focusing on for the past 6 years of this broadcast, and we hope it spreads out the message. The siege at Ruby Ridge. Up next, Randy Weaver is going to walk us through what happened as the incident happened over 30 years ago when shots were fired killing his wife. Sam Donaldson will have that siege. Stay with us. 30 years ago, if you were in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, you may have witnessed some FBI people shooting at Randy Weaver, his family, because of weapons charges. Tonight we're going to take you to Ruby Ridge as Randy Weaver walks us through what happened during all of this when the siege of Ruby Ridge began in '92. Here's Sam Donaldson with a primetime exclusive.
I didn't trust the government before it happened, and they proved to me everything that I believed about them before.
His name is Randy Weaver. He used to live on a high ridge in the mountains of northern Idaho near Ruby Creek in this wooden cabin. a remote, isolated place. Now, for many, a symbol for the abuse of government power.
I knew I was dead. I knew that was it. It's over. It's just a matter of time.
I was just praying that we'd all go at once because I didn't want to watch us go one by one. It was just totally frightening.
Randy Weaver and his daughters, Rachel, Elishaba, and Sarah, lived through a siege that left 3 people dead. His wife, Vicki, his teenage son, Sam, and Deputy U.S. Marshal William Deegan. 3 deaths that never should have happened.
We had an abuse of power from the beginning in this case.
Jerry Spence was a defense attorney who represented Weaver against the federal government when it was all over.
They established a rule to kill. Hitler could do that. We can't do that.
Last week, the Weavers returned to Ruby Ridge for the first time since the shooting to tell us their story of how it happened. Why did you bring your family up here?
Get out of the city, get the kids in the country, and just live a cleaner life.
But there is more than that to the move from their home state of Iowa to Ruby Ridge. Weaver has just left the Army, where he'd been a member of the elite Green Beret Special Forces Unit, when he marries Vicki Jordison in 1971. They've been college sweethearts. They lean towards simple, sometimes narrow views, mistrusting government power, and finding biblical support for a racist God.
I'm not ashamed of what I call Yahweh. I believe that's his proper name.
That's God.
To most people, yes.
What does racism mean?
To me, it means loving your own race.
Weaver insists it does not mean hating any other race. But beneath these pictures of idyllic mountain life lie some disturbing contradictions. 10-year-old Rachel keeps letters full of white supremacist rhetoric. 16-year-old Sarah has a calendar with Martin Luther King Day marked with a swastika. And in 14-year-old Sam's bedroom, a sign that says, "Death to Jews."
What do you think? Jews should be killed? No. I have never, ever bothered anybody that didn't bother me first. And I never will.
He was discharged from the Army with a perfect record. I don't think he even had a driving ticket in his whole life. This was a guy who just wasn't a troublemaker.
But trouble is on the way. When just an hour's drive south of his cabin, Weaver begins to visit the compound of the white supremacist Aryan Nations Church. He meets a man who later turns out to be an informant for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
He wanted me to do him a favor, and I could make a few bucks doing it, and I went for it.
Which was what? To sell him?
He wanted some sawed-off shotguns. And saw the barrels off and butts, and I did it.
Well, they said, now we got you, and you're going to go to prison, unless, of course, you will snitch for us.
Weaver refuses to become an informant, and sure enough, on January 17, 1991, he's arrested on charges of making and possessing illegal firearms. The magistrate leads him to believe wrongly that he might lose his property. He fears even his children. Free on bond, he goes back to his mountaintop cabin, vowing not to show up for trial, unless reassured on those points. But the authorities refuse to do it.
The United States Attorney said, we don't bargain with these kinds of people. We won't assure him of anything.
The U.S. Attorney explains later he doesn't think he has the legal authority to offer assurances in advance of a plea bargain. February 3rd, 1991. Vicki Weaver sends an ominous letter to the U.S. Attorney, whom she now addresses as the servant of the Queen of Babylon. War is upon the land, she writes. The tyrant's blood will flow. Sarah puts her sense of foreboding in a poem. Awake, O white man, and flee to the hill. Take up your sword and be ready to kill. The U.S. Marshal Service is told to go up and get the fugitive, to bring Weaver to court. The marshals begin scouting the terrain. They set up a surveillance operation on this hillside. They move cautiously. They know that the Weavers, including the children, carry guns, and that the Weavers' yellow Labrador dog Striker always warns of visitors. They see on their surveillance video Kevin Harris armed, Sarah Weaver with a weapon, Vicki Weaver carrying a rifle, and in camouflage, Sam Weaver also with a rifle. The marshals truly believe they're dealing with dangerous people. sense of its meaning. After all, Weaver is associating with an organization, the Aryan Nations, that has been linked to any number of violent actions, even murder. And a psychologist consultant tells them he thinks that the Weavers will resist all but a military-type assault, and even then, will fight, possibly to the death.
I heard over the radio, the marshals, well, they didn't show up for court. He's like a wild animal up in his territory, and we're going to have to go get him.
Why did they think you were dangerous?
Because people set me up to be dangerous. People that didn't like the way I believed.
The views that Randy Weaver brought to these mountains were often controversial, sometimes extreme, even to many Americans repugnant. His views on religion, on race, the fact that he attended Aryan Nation meetings, all of this helps explain the passion with which the federal government went after him. But Randy Weaver's views, wrong-headed though they may have been, cannot be an excuse for what happened to him and his family. Now it is the summer of 1992, and Weaver's been holed up on Ruby Ridge for some 18 months. On the morning of August 21st, the marshals are nearby as usual. But on this day, something goes terribly wrong. 9:15 a.m. From a hidden observation post 300 yards away, 3 U.S. Marshals in full camouflage uniform watch the Weaver's cabin. They toss rocks, but get no reaction from the cabin or the dog Striker. Marshals move closer, behind the Weaver's pump house, and spring. 10 a.m. Suddenly, the dog appears, and the marshals retreat into the woods.
I heard Sam yell, "Hey, Dad, Striker's down to the pump house," barking real wildly, and I grabbed my shotgun and went outside to go see what was going on.
14-year-old Sam Weaver and 24-year-old Kevin Harris, a family friend, follow the dog into the woods. They don't know it yet, but Striker is on the scent of the marshals. Weaver follows an abandoned logging road running in the same direction, thinking he'd meet the boys where their paths will intersect at a place called the Y.
I thought maybe I'm going to see a mountain lion, I'm going to see a cougar. Cool, you know. Big mistake.
Weaver gets to the Y first.
I got right about here, and a guy jumps out and he says, "Freeze, Randy!"
Did he identify himself?
No, sir. That's all he said. That's all I heard.
It is one of the U.S. Marshals. His version is that he did identify himself, who now jumps back behind a tree. The second marshal is hiding in a natural foxhole behind a rock. The third marshal, William Deegan, a decorated veteran of the service, crouches behind a stump. Challenged, Weaver retreats.
I said, "You!" And I turned and started yelling, "Sam and Kevin, get home! It's an ambush!"
Almost immediately, Sam Weaver and Kevin Harris approach the Y from the other direction.
I saw a man standing in the road right out there in front of us, sir.
And the dog was around him?
Yeah, and the dog was kind of bouncing around and nipping at his hands.
I heard a boom! Boom, boom!
It is Striker, who has been shot and killed by Marshal Arthur Roderick.
And then Sam said, "You shot my dog, you son of a bitch." And then
began to fire.
Yeah.
Sam Weaver fires his Mini-14 semi-automatic weapon wildly in the marshal's direction, hitting no one. Kevin Harris dives behind a stump, only 10 yards opposite the nearest marshal. Out of sight behind the bend, Randy Weaver fires his guns into the air and keeps screaming for his son.
I heard Sam yell, "I'm coming, Dad!" And I go, "Cool, I'm out of here."
Sam Weaver heads for home, but now the marshals return fire.
You know how if somebody hits you in the chest and you go, "Huh," and you're like, your mouth is open, it'll make that noise? That's what I heard. Like somebody hit him in the chest.
Not the chest. As he runs for his father, Sam Weaver is hit twice, in the arm and squarely in the back. He falls dead on the road. About the same time, Kevin Harris fires across the trail, and Marshal William Deegan takes a bullet in the chest. Well, you're aware that Marshal Deegan was killed?
Yeah.
Who do you think killed him?
I would have to guess it was me.
The shootout is over. Harris checks Sam Weaver's body, then heads back to the Weaver's cabin.
And he was crying, and I yelled at him, said, "Where's Sam?" And he yelled, "Sam's dead."
And my mom she lost it. She couldn't even handle it.
Your brother was what, 14? Do you believe that Sam was deliberately shot, or was it an accident?
Oh, deliberately, yeah.
He loved that dog.
Well, sure. He's a kid protecting his damn dog.
The marshals say they were firing blindly in self-defense and didn't even realize they'd hit the youngster. Within the hour, Randy Weaver and his wife Vicky go down the road to where their son is lying.
I kissed him a few times and held him in my arms, and
They put their son's body in a guest shed near the cabin.
we laid him in there, and they took his clothes off, and I wanted to look at his wounds.
The Weavers begin to mourn.
They didn't have to kill that little kid. He was 14 years old, but he was 4'11", weighed 80 pounds. He hadn't matured yet. He had just walked by these guys.
My brother and I, we were pals. He was 2 years younger than me, and we did everything together. And nothing will ever replace that.
We're not the demons that everyone's made us out to be. We aren't people that deserve to be torn apart.
Down at the Y, the marshals, also grief-stricken in the shootout's aftermath, call for help. And from Washington, 2,000 miles away, a crack team of FBI snipers respond, carrying with it unprecedented instructions for the use of deadly force. The marksmen are given a special guideline for dealing with the Weavers that has but one meaning.
It meant that if they came out of the house, they were dead people.
The Weavers don't know it, but they are about to become targets for the FBI with devastating consequences.
You know, you can almost feel like you're in that place. And if you're wearing those virtual reality headsets, you feel like you're in that Seige Ridge being shot at like the dog, or being at that shootout like those two. When we come back, more on that Seige Ridge as Ben Weaver tells his side about what happened. But what about the FBI? What do they have to say? Sam Donaldson continues that siege. Stay with us. Let's get you up to speed here in Oxford. The USA Today posted an article on Tuesday, like on March 7th, just yesterday, saying their son committed a Michigan school shooting. Now they're filing manslaughter charges. An appeals court on Tuesday grilled attorneys for James and Jennifer Crumley, the first parents in America charged in a mass school shooting, about how the couple treated their son before he murdered 4 students and injured 7 others in November 2021 shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan. The court focused on why they bought him a gun despite his mental health troubles, and why they didn't take him home after seeing the note he read. The thoughts won't stop. Help me. The appeals court is trying to decide if the Crumleys would stand trial on voluntary manslaughter charges. The actions of their son, Ethan Crumley, who pleaded guilty to murder charges last year. The judge, here's what the judge questioned. Why did they bring their son home from school when they were summoned over a troubling drawing he had made? Why didn't they hug him in the counsel's office? Why didn't they check his backpack that day? Both parents failed. Dad told him to take some pills and suck it up. That's what the judges. Instead, that's what the prosecutor said. He stressed, he said, told him to take some pills and suck it up. My mom laughed at him. Suck it up, man. You better suck it up right now. It's not funny when you're being told to suck it up. Suck it up, get it off your ass and take some pills. Instead of getting help, they just bought him a gun. The parents weren't involved in the planning, but the defense lawyer argues the same case. And it goes on and on. Here's parents of some of the high school victims who were at the news conference with attorney Van Johnson saying James and Jennifer Crumley should be among those held accountable. The Court of Appeals issued a decision in a later date. Now let's move forward to Oxford, Michigan. Let's move further to Uvalde, where something is happening. We don't know yet, but from just 7 hours ago, WFAA posted articles saying in response to Uvalde shooting, more gun safety accounting bills introduced from what happened. So we may now know what happened. What's going to be happening now? Will those gun bills pass? We'll give you folks what's been going on, and we'll give you the latest developments.
the Seige at Ruby Ridge. When we come back, the FBI takes charge, and Vicki Weaver winds up in the line of fire.
She was just totally lifeless and limp, and I just drugged her and laid her beside the kitchen table.
For days, your wife later.
Yeah.
And later.
That story when we come back. Stay with us. Now the conclusion to our story. 3 people are dead at Ruby Ridge, Idaho. Remember, the dog striker. It was the dog striker. It was the marshal and his son. Now, there was a 4th victim in this. Can you guess who that is? It's his wife. You'll see now what happened when the FBI took charge and made up their own rules. Once again, here's Sam Donaldson.
On the afternoon of August 21st, 1992, the people in the cabin on Ruby Ridge are mourning the death of 14-year-old Sam Weaver. Today, the cabin interior looks almost the same as it did then. Sam Weaver's bedroom is exactly as he left it the day he died. His clothes, his boots, neatly organized. Randy Weaver's nightstand. The kitchen, still stocked with Vicki Weaver's hand-labeled jars of homegrown herbs and spices. It was here that the family mourned. But that August day, they are alone in their grief. People gathering at the base of the mountain learn only the shocking news that a federal marshal has been killed in the performance of his duty by violent criminals, the authorities tell them.
Good afternoon. A federal agent has been shot and killed in the...
On the East Coast, official Washington mobilizes to apprehend his killers. 4:30 p.m., an executive jet prepares for an emergency flight to Ruby Ridge. The FBI is taking over the case. And within hours, the Bureau's elite hostage rescue team leaves for the scene. Aboard the jet, Team Commander Richard Rogers does something unprecedented. He rewrites FBI policy for the use of deadly force.
The new rule that Rogers devised was basically shoot on sight. If these people come out, shoot them.
Ronald Kessler is an investigative reporter who has written extensively about the FBI.
Rogers was sort of trigger happy, you know. He just didn't have the patience to do things the way the FBI normally does.
FBI agents are trained to follow a standard rule in using deadly force, never before departed from in modern times, according to Kessler. A defensive rule.
One does not shoot unless an agent is threatened or another individual is threatened with loss of life by an individual. I mean, otherwise you would be condoning taking people's lives without a trial, without due process.
But as he flies to Idaho aboard the FBI executive jet, Rogers, in consultation with Assistant FBI Director Larry Potts, who is back in Washington, comes up with a new rule. In Idaho, he talks it over with Eugene Glenn, the FBI agent in charge of the overall operation at Ruby Ridge. And they fax to Washington this final wording. If any adult male is observed with a weapon, deadly force can and should be employed if the shot can be taken without endangering any children. Note, not just can, but can and should. August 22nd, the next day. All is quiet in the cabin. Throughout the morning and into the afternoon, no one emerges. But out of sight in the surrounding hills, there is feverish activity as the FBI's elite hostage rescue team creeps into position. The word has been passed that the people in the cabin are armed and dangerous and are now wanted for the murder of a federal marshal. Late in the afternoon, the FBI established 4 sniper locations along this hillside, some 220 yards from the cabin door. The snipers had been carefully briefed on the new rules of engagement, which in effect told them to shoot to kill if they saw any adult male with a firearm. And within minutes of the snipers' arrival, at 5:58 in the afternoon, the front door of the cabin opened. Randy Weaver, his daughter Sarah, and family friend Kevin Harris come out. Weaver makes for the door of the shed in which his 14-year-old son's body lies. Today, the shed is gone, but Weaver finds the spot where that day he reached up to open the door.
I switched my rifle in my left hand, reached up to... Bow!
You're shot in the back.
Yeah. Right. Yep. And I thought, and there's a mist, bloody mist went from my face.
Weaver, wounded, spins around the side of the shed, out of the line of fire. You realize that the sniper says he believes that you were trying to shoot at a helicopter.
He's a liar. He is a flat liar, and he tried to murder me, maybe. I'm not sure about that. He tried to murder Kevin, and he murdered Vicky. And he's just as big a liar as he is a murderer.
Vicky Weaver hears her husband shot.
Vicky came out of the house, and she goes, "Get in the house." And she had a lush bed there with her, and she runs back up on the porch, and she opens the door.
Looking through his 10-power rifle scope, which shows this magnification, the sniper sees a door that originally had a glass window in it. Vicky Weaver, their 10-month-old daughter Elishaba in her arms, stands on the porch behind the door, holding it open.
Sarah's pushing me, and Kevin has fallen in behind her. And it just as Sarah's shoving me through the door. Wow, another shot.
And that shot?
That shot went through the door and killed my wife, went through her head. And wounded Kevin real bad.
The sniper later draws a picture on a hotel scratch pad of what he says he saw through the glass in the door. 2 heads. He says he believes he's shooting at the same man he had shot before, and does not know he has just shot at a woman.
She was just totally lifeless and limp then, and I just drugged her in and laid her beside the kitchen table.
And for days, your wife lay there?
Yeah.
Your mother lay there? Vicky Weaver is dead. Yet to this moment, the FBI has not announced its presence. No one has used a bullhorn to call for Weaver's surrender, or to warn that sharpshooters might open fire. But now, the FBI demands surrender. Weaver refuses. You're afraid to come outside?
Oh, yeah. I was at a point where I knew we were dead. I mean, from then on, I just figured we're dead. They're going to kill us all. That's what their plans are.
400 law enforcement agents are in the area. They have armored personnel carriers, helicopters, and demolition equipment. A tense and dangerous standoff begins as demonstrators show up to berate federal authorities. August 24th.
They discovered the body of Samuel Weaver.
Agent Glenn confirms that Sam Weaver is dead. August 28th. A real break occurs. Former Green Beret Colonel Bo Greitz, a man Weaver trusts, is allowed in to negotiate. 6:58 p.m., Greitz is wired for sound, and a surveillance camera watches his every move. He learns that Vicky Weaver is dead. Later the same evening, FBI agent in charge Eugene Glenn calls relatives to the scene from their motel rooms, including Vicky Weaver's parents and sister, Julie Brown.
And they asked us to form a circle in the road and hold hands. We were just shivering and shaking, and Gene Glenn says, "We have some good news and we have some bad news."
Brown recalls Glenn saying the good news is that the Weaver girls, Randy Weaver and Kevin Harris, still in the cabin, are all right. The bad news, Glenn says, is that Vicky is, quote, no longer with us.
It seemed to me such a brutal way to deliver it. We were shocked. No one spoke.
August 30th, 2 days later, Greitz persuades Kevin Harris to surrender. Harris is airlifted to the hospital, but Weaver and his daughters hold out. The FBI's Commander Rogers gives Greitz a chilling deadline.
I said, "Dick, we are not going to leave that family." And rather sarcastically, he kind of smiled and said, "Well, Colonel, you do whatever you want to, but tomorrow, if it looks like you're not going to get them out, we are taking them out."
August 31st, 10 a.m. Told that famed defense attorney Jerry Spence will represent him, Randy Weaver surrenders. The siege at Ruby Ridge is over. Weaver and Harris are charged with multiple crimes, including the murder of Marshall Deegan. But at their trial, something strange happened. The first public indication that the FBI may be covering up something. The FBI refuses to cooperate with the federal prosecutor, undermining his case. and prompting the judge to accuse the FBI of playing games with the court. The defense rests without calling a single witness. Attorney David Nevin, who represented Kevin Harris against the charge of murder, explains why.
There wasn't evidence of it even beginning to suggest that Kevin was actually guilty of that crime, aside from the statements made by the marshals themselves, who were lying.
Kevin Harris is found not guilty of all charges. He is free to go. Randy Weaver is found not guilty of all charges, except failing to show up for his original trial on gun charges. As punishment, he spends 5 more months in jail. Back in Washington, the FBI is busy writing its version of what happened. Here at FBI headquarters, there is an understanding that the special shoot-to-kill rule is a problem, and no one wants to take responsibility for having given final approval for it. Assistant FBI Director Larry Potts, the top man in Washington the night the rule is written, swears in an affidavit that while he agreed that agents could shoot, he did not agree to the words, "and should shoot." On the other hand, Agent Rogers, who wrote the new rule, and Agent Glenn, who sent it to headquarters, swear in their affidavits that Potts okayed everything. And what about the sniper himself? He's a West Point graduate who, after leaving the Army as a captain in 1983, becomes a member of the FBI's elite hostage rescue team. His name is Lon Horiuchi. Primetime agreed to conceal his identity after the FBI asked us to for security reasons. Was Horiuchi following the new shoot-on-sight rule?
No, it's semantics. It had nothing to do with the guys that went out there.
So you were acting under the deadly force policy?
Always.
But remember, the standard deadly force policy is defensive. And even if Horiuchi truly believed a helicopter was about to be fired on by Weaver at the shed door, what about his second shot that killed Vicki Weaver?
They're running with their rifles down. There's no way they can shoot anybody. There is no self-defense involved in any way. They're running to the house, and Horiuchi opens fire.
You think I don't want to stand around here and not tell somebody the truth instead of all the lies that me printed? Jerry Spence is able to talk to anybody he wants to. I can't do that. You can't compromise an investigation.
Now listen to this. Bo Grites claims Team Commander Rogers made this shocking admission to him.
He was almost apologetic. He said to me, quote, "Bo, we targeted Vicki Weaver because she was profiled by the psychiatrist as being the maternal head of the family who would kill her children rather than allow them to surrender."
Rogers denies he said that, or that the FBI had a plan to target Vicki Weaver. Although the FBI acknowledges a psychologist consultant told them Vicki Weaver might in fact kill her children. Randy Weaver has no doubts about what happened.
I know with that 10-power scope, he saw my wife standing there. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Last year, the Justice Department Office of Professional Responsibility concludes an investigation. It finds that Horiuchi's second shot that killed Vicki Weaver did not meet the criterion for self-defense. We believe that the shot was unnecessarily dangerous and should not have been taken, says its report, which goes on to brand the shoot-to-kill rules unconstitutional. Notwithstanding this, FBI Director Louis Freeh takes no decisive action.
As I said, I don't find any misconduct.
In fact, in May, Freeh promotes Potts to be his principal deputy. But then, things begin to change rapidly. Agent Glenn complains in a letter he's being scapegoated. One of Potts' assistants admits to shredding a key document in the case. And Freeh reverses himself, first demoting Potts, then suspending him along with 4 others. For his part, Potts tells Primetime just yesterday,
"I'm innocent of any wrongdoing. I've cooperated with every inquiry. I'll continue to do that."
Indeed, the Justice Department has now opened a criminal investigation into what happened at Ruby Ridge. And the Weavers? They've settled a civil suit against the government for $3.1 million. $100,000 for Randy Weaver, $1 million each for his 3 daughters. But they say there is no joy in it.
Would you trade your mother and your brother for $1 million?
I'd give my life for him. To have him back.
Rachel,
You have $1 million.
Is it my family?
If any of these guys would just flat out come out and start telling the truth about what happened, Sam, you know, I could be very forgiving of a lot of them. But, until they do, I won't.
FBI Director Louis Freeh declined our request for an interview. However, he has said elsewhere that he has a sense of anger and frustration that something like that could happen. He calls the charges swirling around his agents shocking and grievous. He says it was a mistake on his part to promote Larry Potts, and promises that once he has the facts, he will take swift action to punish any wrongdoing. One more thing, Director Freeh says never again will the FBI operate under a shoot-to-kill rule.
Wow. Just wow. When we come back, the other side of the story from the FBI director. Actually, FBI employee. Chris Haynes will have that story. Stay with us. Well, we're out of time, but we're going to continue this on Wednesday or Friday. Now, we've just heard from the director saying there will be no more shoot to kill. But there was an employee from the FBI who retired because of that whole case. You'll get to hear his side of the story as he tells Chris Hansen what had happened from his point of view. That's on Wednesday. Coming up on Friday, Secrets No More, a story about the Catholic Church, why it decided to cover up a bunch of sexual abuse cases. You'll hear from Father Porter, Father Enciano, and hear the story about mincemeat pie, all for one man who noticed years ago that he was sexually abused by the pastor of his church. Secrets No More. That's on Friday. That's Give Me a Break for this Tuesday going to Wednesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. Everyone here at YouTube, stop bullying, speak up. And don't ever issue an order to shoot to kill. I'll have my take on this also Wednesday. Bye-bye.